everyone, welcome to Kente Kente's channel. Today I want us to talk about building a healthy relationship or building a healthy family. And building a healthy family is a journey. It's not an easy thing, but it's a journey where each and every person have to participate. Because you are going into a relationship where you don't know the other person, the other partner. You need to study one another first. Before you go into marriages or before you go into relationships, you have to study one another. People prefer going in a relationship for some years before they go into marriages. Others prefer going into a relationship with them in a month, some months before they go into marriages. Whichever way you want to go in, it depends on the individual. That when you enter into set marriages or when you enter into set relationship, it will grow or it will help. Don't forget, we are all coming from a different environment. So if the woman who is coming from a different environment has his own idea or agenda, and the man also has his own her agenda, and the man also has his own agenda, and they coincide, they come together with it, it should match. Even if it doesn't match, you have to adjust. Each person has to be able to adjust. Adjust within yourself. Try to cooperate among yourselves. That is the only way the marriage will work. Because if the man cannot do this and the woman can do this, you come together, you agree into one thing, it will help that relationship to grow. But if you don't agree, that is the danger of the marriage or the relationship will last. So once you're going into a relationship, you are studying one another. One is thinking of, okay, what should we do before we go into that marriage? Are you working enough to sustain the marriage? Are you financially sound? The woman, both parties. Who is sound and who is not sound? I think the best thing is both of you should be financially sound. So it won't lead to abuse in the marriage. Because if both of you are financially sound, or one is even more and the other one is not bad at all, they can all balance it, I think the marriage can last or the relationship can last. But if financially it's not really well, then don't go too much into that marriage. Ensure that you are financially sound, both man and woman. Both parties should ensure. And be ready with psychologically to prepare your mind. What are you preparing? Are you ready for all those things in the marriage? Don't forget, you are going into a marriage or a relationship where both have different environments and they all have different families. So it's not single person, it's not you alone. You are marrying from a family. And the family, if the man's family says this and the woman's family says this, there will be a crash. So you have to work all this psychologically. You have to work it out. How are we going to work this out? My mom is this, my dad is this, my uncle is this, my nephew is this. You have to sit down and work this out before you go into that relationship. Because it's really important, especially with the African family. If the mom says this and the dad is saying this, and the other parties are not working together, the marriage doesn't last. That is when there is confusion, when there is misunderstanding, the marriage just breaks down. But if you work it together, if you understand one another, and you think you're going to adjust among yourselves, you're going to weigh things down before you go into it, it will help. So financially, everybody can work to support. Psychologically, you've trained your mind, you are ready for whatever that comes your way. Any obstacle that will distract you, you are ready for that. Physically, what do you think? Are you ready? Are you physically strong? Are you ready to do all that? The going and the coming, the in and out, the working, everything that combines, that needs you to be strong to do that, go into that marriage. Are you ready for that? So if you are ready for that, you work that one too out. And then it will help you. It will help you with the emotional. Because if financially you are okay, you can work this and psychologically you've worked this among yourself within that year that you've planned, or within that month that you've planned. If you'll be able to identify the advantages and the disadvantages, and then you weigh it and you think which one will help, you pick the one that will help, you talk to your families, you understand one another, and then physically you are okay to go into it. Then you have to also work out about, talk about your sexual relationship, because it will also help in the marriage. If sexually one person says no and then the other person say yes, sometimes it doesn't help the marriage to grow. So you have to work that one too out. Sexually, it's really important, so it won't lead to sexual abuse, because it is there where the man will force the lady, or the lady will say yes to their one days. So each person have to be able to, you have to work all this together, so you won't abuse one another sexually, because it doesn't help in such a marriage or in such a relationship when you are going in. So you work this thing out and you work towards it. Prepare your mind, prepare everything before you go into such a relationship, because when you go into it, it's really hard. What you don't want is going in within short time and coming out. It's there, but it depends on the person you are marrying, or it depends on the person you are having that relationship. So if you work all this together and you think it will help, then you can go in. So socially, how are you going to work? How are you going to socialize yourself with your friends? You have friends before you went into that marriage. What are you going to do about it? What are your friends saying? Are your friends accepting that you're going into marriage? Are your friends doing this and that? So socially, you have to work this out too, because socially it comes with the environment, the community where you are in. And let's say even the culturally, it's also help. You have to know that the culture where you're going to marry, their culture is this and their culture is that. You have to weigh that one too. So you've worked the socially, you are working the culture too. And religiously, you have to work that one too out. Who are you going to marry? Is the person religious? Is the person non-religious? Or is the person family accepting me? You have to work that one too out before you go into that. So you have to sit and work this thing all out before you go into that marriage or you go into that relationship. Because if you are a Christian, you say, okay, I'm going to marry a Muslim, and the Muslim say, if I marry you, you have to come to mosque. Or if you also say, you have to go to church, and there is no understanding, there is no way out, then that thing you don't have to go into it. Because if you go into it, it will lead to abuse, or it will lead to violence, and it can even lead to death. And the problem is, if such relationships start and if such relationship leads into marriage and a child comes in, the problem is the child that you are going to give him the problem. Because mommy is there, daddy is there, they are not working things together, we are causing trouble for the child. That is what we don't want. So if you are going in, you have to work these things out very well before you go into that marriage. Don't think marriage is fine, a relationship is fine, you just jump in it because people are doing it. No. Work things out before you go to it, and ensure that where you're going, you know what you want to do. You know what you want. That's why you are going in. So you know. So let's all prepare into that. Let's not sit and relax and think marriage is like that or relationship like that. You have to work towards. Even whilst you've gone into that relationship, the person you are marrying, you don't even know him or her very well. This is the time you're going to study the person. Remember, the person is from a different environment. So you're now going to study the person, whatever the person likes, his culture, what he likes, his food, the food he likes, his culture, the dressing they do, and all that. So if you study all this before you go into it, you are prepared. So let's work all these things out before we go into marriage, because it is very helpful and it will help us not to be confused before a child comes around. Because we want to have a happy marriage, we want our children to enjoy the marriage, and we want to enjoy the marriage ourselves. So let's not jump into a relationship that won't end well. Let's not jump into it. So let's think about all this before you go into a relationship. because it is very important before you go into it. And let's not forget that what you're going into the language also comes in the culture. So it's a lot. There's a lot to do before you go into marriage, or you go into a deep relationship, because you are going with your heart, and you can have broken heart if you are not careful. So let's all enjoy working things out before we go into any relationship. We think of it financially, we work that thing out physically, psychologically, emotionally, sexually, culturally, everything, language barrier and all that. Let's work these things out before we go into any relationship we think we are going in. All what you're coming together is because you love the person, that's why you're going in. But don't ignore these ones, don't ignore them. It's important. Thank you for joining me today, because it's nice to go into a relationship. It's nice to go into a good relationship, and it's nice to work them out, to develop it and stay together in peace and in love. Thank you very much. Let's all share, like, and subscribe. Thank you.